about their new resident artistic director.
Rad.
And on behalf of everyone at both of our organizations, we are here to celebrate spring and poetry, and we're glad that you're here with us. Lots of familiar faces and also a couple of new ones, so we're really, really happy to see all of them combined. Greater Light is one of our historic properties, and two very eclectic Quaker sisters in the 30s decided to follow a cow and wind through the roads of downtown Nantucket, and they stumbled upon this very site. And it was a working livestock barn with animals. And one said to the other, I think we found our home. And the two sisters are depicted here. Hannah on the left was the theatrical one. She had a very big personality by all accounts. And to the right was Gertrude, her sister who loved painting. Hannah was a writer, and she has an excellent memoir about the site and her experience here. And they loved the arts, and so this is such a wonderful place to celebrate the arts in all of their forms. We have this open during the season as a regular house museum where you can come and explore, but this is really what makes it all tick. Nights like tonight, poetry, painting in the garden, things like that. So I welcome you. I ask you to just take a moment to silence your cell phones so that we can get into the spirit of poetry and spoken word. And I'd love to give Justin the stage because he is an actor and a gentleman, and he will tell you a little bit about our collaborations and also his role here on the island this summer. So
Yes, I'll be short this week because Marshawn's so eloquent. But so I'm new to the island and new to the theater workshop. I am the resident artistic director. We have a fantastic season at the theater workshop. We open Hay Fever in about a month. They start rehearsals on Monday, so we're really excited. They're all writing. Please visit theaterworkshop.com for any information. Our office is on Main Street, and I've been telling everybody, come up and see us and say hi if you have any questions. And our box office opens at the Methodist Church at 2 Center Street. It'll open, I believe, next week. The other really cool thing is that we do a lot with the NHA. The biggest collaboration, I believe, is this summer when we do Moby Dick. And it's been so popular here. I have not seen it yet, so it'll be great for me. But it's been so popular that we're going to do it twice, once in July and then once in August. And we're going to do, I think, 5 nights?
4 nights each. Yeah.
4 nights each, 4 nights each. So not to be missed. And our very own local celebrity and theater workshop artistic director, John Shea, helms that project and performs in it as well. Why? Well, he's not busy filming a movie, so he's got a lot going on. So that's one of our largest collaborations. But tonight, sometimes these more intimate things are almost just as special. And we have some of our TWN staff as well as actors performing. And it was lovely last night, and I know you're really going to enjoy it. Thank you. And have a lovely night. Thank you very much.
thank you everybody so much for coming. Have a seat, please. Thank you so much for coming. It's so wonderful to see people who love poetry as much as we do. I said that last night. I just want to take a moment and thank the NHA and TWN for allowing us to put these wonderful elements together in this wonderful place, and thank God for the Monahan sisters. Such a rare and special place, and it's such a unfortunately rare and special thing, reading poetry aloud. You don't see it enough, and I hope we inspire you. Next time you're going to turn on the television or see a movie or whatever, go on Netflix and YouTube, you can read each other some poetry. I want to introduce myself, Meredith Martin, my father, Douglas Martin, Elizabeth Gilbert. Many of you know Elizabeth Gilbert. Yes. Vince Millay, Annie Breeding, and Steve Axelrod. Enjoy.
Good evening. This first poem is written by William Wordsworth, who was born in 1770. had to, when I was in school in England, I had to recite this and memorize it completely. And in those days, it was, way back days, it was called I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. Today, it is called Daffodils, which I think is pretty appropriate for this time of year in Nantucket. So this is Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered, lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle in the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils.
This is by Billy Collins, who's our poet laureate for a year or two around the turn of the century. I'll tell the story again. My mom was living in Sacramento, and he was giving a reading, and supposedly he took requests, so I told her to request this poem, which is one of my favorites, and she did. And he was like, "You're kidding, really? No, it's my request, that's fantastic." They fell in love over that, it was great. It was no one had ever, I don't know why not, it's a great poem. It's called Canada. I'm writing this on a strip of white birch bark that I cut from a tree with a penknife. There is no other way to express adequately the immensity of the clouds that are passing over the farms and wooded lakes of Ontario, and the endless visibility that hands you the horizon on a platter. I'm also writing this in a wooden canoe, a point of balance in the middle of lake couching, resting the birch bark against my knees. I can feel the sun's hands on my bare back, but I'm thinking of winter, snow piled up in all the provinces, and the solemnity of the long grain ships that pass the cold months moored at Owen Sound. Oh, Canada, as the anthem goes, scene of my boyhood summers. You are the pack of sweet caporals on the table. You are the dove-soft train whistle in the night. You are the empty chair at the end of the empty dock. You're the shelves of books at a lakeside cottage. Gift from the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Anne of Avonlea by Ellen Montgomery. So You're Going to Paris by Clara E. Laughlin. And Peril Over the Airport, one of the Vicky Barr flight stewardess series by Helen Wills, whom some will remember as the author of the Cherry Ames Nurse series. What has become of the languorous girls who had passed the long limp summer evenings reading Cherry Ames Student Nurse, Cherry Ames Senior Nurse, Cherry Ames Chief Nurse, Cherry Ames Flight Nurse? Where are they now, the ones who shared her adventures as a veterans nurse, private duty nurse, visiting nurse, cruise nurse, night supervisor, mountaineer nurse, dude ranch nurse? There's little she hasn't done. Rest home nurse, department store nurse, boarding school nurse, country doctor nurse. Oh, Canada, I have not forgotten you. And as I kneel in my canoe beholding this vision of a bookcase, I pray that I remain in your vast polar North American memory. You are the paddle, the snowshoe, and the cabin in the pines. You are Jean de Brébeuf with his martyr's necklace of hatchet heads. You're the moose in the clearing and the moose head on the wall. You're the rapids, the propeller, the kerosene lamp. You're the dust that coats the roadside berries. But not only that, you are the two boys with pails walking along that road. And one of them, the taller one minus the straw hat, is me.
This is called The Goddess by Denise Levertov. She in whose lip service I passed my time, whose name I knew but not her face, came upon me where I lay in Lye Castle, flung me across the room and room after room, hitting the wall, rebounding to the last sticky wall, wrenching away from it, pulled hair out, till I lay outside the outer walls. There in cold air, lying still where her hand had thrown me, I tasted the mud that splattered my lips. The seeds of a forest were asleep and growing. I tasted her power. The silence was answering my silence. A forest was pushing itself out of sleep between my submerged fingers. I bit on a seed, and it spoke on my tongue, of day that shone already among stars in the water mirror of low ground. And a wind rising ruffled the lights. She passed near me, returning from the encounter. She who plucked me from the close rooms, without whom nothing, flowers, fruits, sleeps in seasons, without whom nothing speaks in its own tongue, but returns lie for lie.
This is by Robert Graves. Like Claudius, you have many, many deep, serious, somber love poems celebrating passion and memory. This isn't one. This is a slightly different point of view. It's called The Hung Vase. With women like Marie, no holds are barred. How do they get the gall? How can they do it? She stormed out, slamming the hall door so hard that a vase on the gilt shelf above it, you knew it, looped from the summer palace it became, and worth the entire contents of my flat, toppled and fell. I poured myself a straight gin, downing it a gulp. So that was that. The bell once more. Marie walked calmly in, observed the broken red porcelain on the mat, looked up, looked down again with condescension, then, gliding past me to retrieve a glove, her poor excuse for this improper call, muttered, "Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, your hung vase was phony, like your love." How can they do it? Where do they get the gall?
This one is a lot on a more serious note, but it was written by Rudyard Kipling about 100 years after the Wordsworth one. And again, I had to memorize this one in England. And it's actually written for his son, but it has a lot of very wonderful things that we could learn from too. If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
By way of introduction, James Agee lived a short life, but he lived long enough to write a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, A Death in the Family. Sonnet 1 by James Agee. So it begins. Adam is in his earth, tempted and fallen, and his doom made sure, oh, in the very instant of his birth, whose deathly nature must all things endure, the hungers of his flesh and mind and heart that governed him when he was in the womb. These ravenings multiply in every part, and shall release him only to the tomb. Meantime, he works the earth and builds up nations and trades and wars, and worships chance, and looks to God, and weaves the generations which shall his many hungerings advance when he is sunken dead among his sins. Adam is in his earth. So it begins.
Resume. Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acids stain you, and drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful, nooses give, gas smells awful. You might as well live. Dorothy Parker.
In the Night Fields by W.S. Merwin. I heard the sparrows shouting, eat, eat, and then the day dragged its carcass in back of the hill. Slowly the tracks darkened. The smoke rose steadily from no fires. The old hunger, left in the old darkness, turned like a hanged knife. I would have preferred a quiet life. The bugs of regret began their services, using my spine as a rosary. I left the maps for the spiders. Let's go, I said. Light of the heart, the wheat had started lighting its lanterns, and in every house in heaven there were lights waving hello, goodbye. But that's another life. Snug on the crumbling earth, the old bottles lay dreaming of new wine. I picked up my breast, which had gone out. By other lights I go looking for yours, through the standing harvest of my lost arrows. Under the moon, the shadow practices mowing. Not for me, I say. Please, not for my benefit. A man cannot live by bread alone.
And it was funny because I have a book that actually Sue Baxter gave me, her greatest hits. And I came upon this last year too when we were looking for poems. The only problem is, how do you pick one? But this one is dedicated to one of my favorite artists. I'm hearing a symphony of Beethoven by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Sweet sounds, oh beautiful music, do not cease. Reject me not into the world again. With you alone is excellence and peace. Mankind is plausible, his purpose plain, enchanted in your air benign and shrewd, with limbs asprawl and empty faces pale, the spiteful and the stingy and the rude. Sleep like the scullions in the fairy tale. This moment is the best the world can give. The tranquil blossom on the tortured stem. Reject me not, sweet sounds, oh, let me live, till doom espies my towers and scatters them. A city spellbound under the aging sun. Music, my rampart, and my only one.
Now for William Shakespeare, Sonnet 130. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare.
Oh. I know I was. This is my favorite poet, William B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats. And I said this last night, that he was born in 1865 and he died in 1839. And I always like to think that I lived somewhere at least near his time period, because it's really too late to date Yeats. He was really cute and fabulous. This is one of his most famous poems, The Lake Isle of Innisfree. And I always like to think about how I feel about Nantucket when I read this poem. So. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 beam rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's old glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evenings full of linnets' wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray, I hear it in the deep heart's core.
It's so hard to choose. Okay, well, when I first read Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats, I really thought he was an old, wise man, and then I was actually shocked to learn that he died at the age of 25, which is as old as Vince is. Think of that. Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and lithowards had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green, and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and provençal song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. Fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known, the weariness, the fever, and the fret. Here where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre-thin and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pineth then beyond tomorrow. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his pards, but on the viewless wings of poesy. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, already with thee, tender is the night, and haply the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry fays. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with breezes blown, through verdurous glooms and windy, mossy ways. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what the soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in embalmed darkness guess each sweet, wherewith the seasonal month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild. White hawthorn in the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk rose, full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer's eves. Darkling, I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to cease upon the midnight with no pain, while thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have years in vain to thy high requiem become a sod. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth, when sick for home she stood in tears amid the alien corn, the same that ofttimes hath charmed magic casements, opening on the foam of perilous seas, in fairy lands forlorn. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell, to toll me back from thee to my sole self. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well as she is fain to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu, thy plaintive anthem fades, past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now 'tis buried in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake, or sleep.
This is by Gary Snyder, California poet. Went to Japan, he translated a lot of Japanese poetry. He wrote this before that, though. Sometimes it seems like this could have been written by like Basho. Basho was a forest ranger in California 50 years ago. It's called Mid-August at Sourdough Mountain Lookout. Down valley, a smoke haze, 3 days heat after 5 days rain. Pitch glows on the fir cones. Across rocks and meadows, swarms of new flies. I cannot remember things I once read. A few friends, but they're in cities. Drinking cold snow water from a tin cup. Looking down for miles through high still air.
I want to just make a little correction. In the program, this is actually not sonnet 84, it's sonnet 138. Did I just lose your place?
Page 77.
You rock, Dad.
They're not moving.
There you go. I'll take your photo.
This sonnet, number 138 by the immortal Shakespeare, illustrates, I think, a rather comical side to matrimony. See what you think. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. That she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties. Thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply I credit her false-speaking tongue. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not she is unjust? And wherefore say not that I am old? Oh, love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore, I lie with her, and she with me, and in our faults by lies we flattered be.
This is The Force That Through the Green Fuse Drives the Flower by Dylan Thomas. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower, drives my green age. That blasts the roots of trees is my destroyer. And I am dumb to tell the crooked rose my youth is bent by the same wintry fever. The force that drives the water through the rocks drives my red blood, that dries the mouthing streams, turns mine to wax. And I am dumb to mouth unto my veins, how at the mountain spring the same mouth sucks. The hand that whirls the water in the pool stirs the quicksand, that ropes the blowing wind, hauls my shroud sail. And I am dumb to tell the hanging man how of my clay is made the hangman's line. The lips of time leach to the fountainhead. Love drips and gathers, but the fallen blood shall calm her sores. And I am dumb to tell a weather's wind how time has ticked a heaven round the stars. And I am dumb to tell the lover's tomb how at my sheet goes the same crooked worm.
This is a poem called Blackberrying by Sylvia Plath. Nobody in the lane, and nothing. Nothing but blackberries. Blackberries on either side, though on the right mainly. A blackberry alley going down in hooks, and a sea somewhere at the end of it, heaving. Blackberries, big as the ball of my thumb and dumb as eyes. Ebon in the hedges, fat with blue-red juices. These they squander on my fingers. I have not asked for such a blood sisterhood. They must love me. They accommodate themselves to my milk bottle, flattening their sides. Overhead go the chuffs in black cacophonous flocks. Bits of burnt paper wheeling in a brown sky. Theirs is the only voice protesting, protesting. I do not think the sea will appear at all. The high green meadows are glowing as if lit from within. I come to one bush of berries so ripe it is a bush of flies, hanging their blue-green bellies and their wing panes in a Chinese scream. The honey feast of the berries has stunned them. They believe in heaven. One more hook, and the berries in the bush's end. The only thing to come now is the sea. From between two hills, a sudden wind funnels at me, slapping its phantom laundry in my face. These hills are too green and sweet to have tasted salt. I follow the sheep path between them. A last hook brings me to the hill's northern face. And the face is orange rock that looks out on nothing, nothing but a great space of white and pewter lights and a din like silversmiths beating and beating at an intractable metal.
This is a little interlude to discuss the difference between good poetry and great poetry. Because we have a little laboratory example here. Shelley and his friends, Keats among them, used to set themselves little competitions. And on this occasion, he and the great poet Horace Smith, I'm sure you're all, no, not really. No, it's Horace Smith, which is really unfair. This is not really that bad. It's a perfectly good poem. I guess what had happened is they found these massive sculptures in the desert in Egypt, and there were inscriptions on them. I guess one of the inscriptions said, "King of kings, Ozymandias, am I, if any want to know how great I am and where I lie, let him outdo me in my work." They were being brought to the British Museum, and I guess it was kind of a big deal, and on the occasion of that, they each wrote a poem about it. And here's what Horace Smith wrote. "In Egypt's sandy silence, all alone, stands a gigantic leg, which far off throws the only shadow that the desert knows. I am great Ozymandias, saith the stone, king of kings, the mighty city shows the wonders of my hand. City's gone, not but the leg remaining to disclose the site of this forgotten Babylon. We wonder, and some hunter may express wonder like ours, when through the wilderness where London stood, holding the wolf in chase, he meets some fragment huge and stops to guess what powerful but unrecorded race once dwelt in that annihilated place." And he was probably feeling pretty good about that until he read this. And it's just amazing how you had this same sculpture, same idea. The intelligence of the poems is basically the same. I mean, I think even more prosaic, but it's all in the execution. This is what Shelley wrote. "I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions red which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
This is a poem by Mary Oliver, who is a poetess that I was just introduced to about 3 years ago, and I must say I've really fallen in love with her poems. This is called The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass. The one who is eating sugar out of my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't exactly know what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
This is a poem by a poet named Stevie Smith, who is considered a minor poet. And it's a poem that I don't really understand completely, although I'm understanding it more as we sort of read it out loud and talk about it. But it's called Not Waving But Drowning. Nobody heard him, the dead man, but still he lay moaning. I was much further out than you thought, and not waving but drowning. Oh, poor chap, he always loved larking, and now he's dead. It must have been too cold for him. His heart gave way, they said. Oh, no, 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 it was too cold always. Still the dead one lay moaning. I was much too far out all my life. And not waving, but drowning.
This is the youngest poet. He's older than Keats. I think Brendan's like 30-something. I met him at school. I went to grad school. And he was the star of the poetry department there, for good reason. I emailed him yesterday to tell him I was doing this. He was charmingly amazed that I would read one of his poems. He'll be even more charmingly amazed when my book ever gets published, because I name check him in it. Two of the characters are talking about poetry, and one of them uses this poem to, like, you know, prove the fact that there's great young poets in the world. That's not all, like, you know, dead people. This is called, Last Night I Went to the Map of the World and I Have Messages for You. America says it's misplaced your number. I was uncomfortable giving it out. I said I'd let you know. Africa's birthday is this weekend. There's a party, no gifts. Just come. If you're planning to go, Greece wants to know if you can get a lift. Awkwardly, so does Turkey. Russia wanted me to say, the worm knows the cabbage, but the worm dies first. I have no idea what that means. Japan looked really uncomfortable all night, but never spoke. Something going on? Ireland asked to be remembered. I sang to it. I didn't get to connect with Europe, but as the French say, isn't that just too bad? Is that everyone? Oh yes, the oceans. They ask what they always ask, and I promised I'd repeat it. Why do you never call? When are you coming home?
I did the same thing last
Oh, just
night.
before you have to say one thing, just a courtesy, this is being spontaneous. I heard that poem, and then 2 years later, my graduating semester, Brendan was back as a graduate assistant. And he did a graduate assistant reading, really short readings, and at the end of it, I came up to him, he didn't know who I was, and I said, why do you never call? When are you coming home? And he was like, what? And he was giving me a big hug.
We love Steve. I said this last night, and it's been a very hectic week, and I'm so glad at all the various things in my life to settle into this little nest of genius that is poetry with all you lovely people who love it. T.S. Eliot. Can you say that, T.S. Eliot? I'm going to say it now. 13 years ago, great love of my life, Hudson Gage, who died very suddenly of a heart attack. And for his service, I wanted to read something, but again, when you start looking into poetry, it's just, thank God that poets pay attention and articulate the things that we feel and think and make us ask questions. And certainly when someone that you love dies, especially traumatically and suddenly, how do you find words to convey? But I found this poem by T.S. Eliot that had been in a little collection of poems next to my bed for years, and I know I read it in school. It's called Little Gidding, and it's a very long poem, but I'm reading just part 5, which we think is appropriately the last for this evening. Little Gidding, part 5 by T.S. Eliot. What we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. And every phrase and sentence that is right, where every word is at home, taking its place to support the others, the word neither diffident nor ostentatious, an easy commerce of the old and the new, the common word exact without vulgarity, the formal word precise but not pedantic, the complete consort dancing together. Every phrase and every sentence is an end and a beginning. Every poem an epitaph. And any action is a step to the block, to the fire, down the sea's throat, or to an illegible stone, and that is where we start. We die with the dying. See, they depart, and we go with them. We are born with the dead. See, they return and bring us with them. The moment of the rose and the moment of the yew tree are of equal duration. A people without history is not redeemed from time, for history is a pattern of timeless moments. So while the light fails on a winter's afternoon in a secluded chapel, history is now and England. With the drawing of this love and the voice of this calling, we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Through the unknown, unremembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall, and the children in the apple tree. Not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard in the stillness, between two waves of the sea. Quick now, here, now, always. A condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything. All manner, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, when the tongues of flames are enfolded into the crowned knot of fire, and the fire and the rose are one. poetry and the arts. And thank you so much again to the NHA and the Theatre Workshop and all of you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, darling.
I just wanted to say that, that I want to really thank you for getting us to do this. This is the second time we've done it, second year we've done it, and it's, for me, it's really important, and I really thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That Ode to a Nightingale, tonight's the first night when you read it that I really heard the poem for the first time. And it really moved me. And I also wanted to say that Hannah and Gertrude, who lived in this house, that poem was very important to them.
Can you feel it?
And I could really feel it. It was very important.
Thank you so much.
And
And I want to say one more thing too that I didn't really fully, all of these wonderful people are actors and have acted on Nantucket stages and are, especially those two at the end, are writers, amazing writers, I might add. And I just want to thank them